Are you here? How's it going? Sorry, I'm a couple minutes late. Technology is not always the friendliest, you know? I'm in my messy closet. Hopefully you just didn't see underwear in my hamper when I bent over. So yeah, today we're doing our first of 3 bonus live Q&As for our 10-day family rules reset. And we've received some questions. I wanted to start off first by talking about why kids don't listen. I did a reel on it today. I sent out a newsletter about it, which if you're not signed up for our newsletter, just keep an eye on my stories. Later today, if you comment newsletter, you'll get I'll send you the latest newsletter that I sent out. Oh wait, I forgot. Holy mackerel. I haven't been talking into this. Can you hear me now? Good grief. In the dryer. Okay, let's take 2. I'm in my messy closet. I'm a couple minutes late because technology. The dryer is going and shaking the wall now, so hopefully you can't hear that. I don't know. But today is our first of 3 live bonus Q&As for our Family Rules Reset. And I want to start off by talking about why kids don't listen. I did a reel on that today. If you haven't seen that, check it out. If you feel like you want to escape and run away because your family is driving you up a wall, there's something counterintuitive that you might need to do. So we're going to talk about that a little bit first. But yeah, our Family Rules Reset is 10 days and includes 3 bonus live Q&As. If you want to join us, comment HELP or HALP. I'm going to be answering questions that our members have sent in. And let's get started. So why kids don't listen? A big reason why kids don't listen, and this is going to be the answer to a few of the questions that we have today. If you're struggling with a kid who's having big reactions or just like keeps digging in and doing more things they know are not okay, the answer might be counterintuitive, and it might be that we need to fill up that kid's relational bank. So if I really dumb down my job as a relationship therapist, I'm working with couples for most of my days. If I really dumb down my job is to increase positive interactions and decrease negative interactions. That's the simplest way to say I help people improve their relationships, or how I help them improve their relationships. We are decreasing negative interactions and increasing positive interactions. And a big part of great parenting, so people always want discipline tactics. They want the discipline tactics. They want to know like how to discipline this kid. But what comes first is, and what's more important than that? So positive relationship, or a warm relationship, is way more important than discipline tactics. So this is why I do not sell my templates for our family rules, or my templates for the better habit cards, or the chores, or anything, because you could have all of that, but if you don't have the tools and skills to create a really positive relationship with your kids, all of that will fail you. So within the workshop, we're also talking about all this other stuff that is going to set you up to succeed and set your relationship with your kid up for success. Because when a kid's relational bank account is full, they want to please you more. You need discipline tactics less. So I want to set people up to succeed in this, and that's why I don't sell any of this without the workshop. And sometimes I get questions either on my reels or in the Q&As that make it really clear that people haven't watched the workshop. If you haven't watched the workshop and you just got your templates and you printed it off and you started getting some decent results, but now you're struggling, watch the workshop. It's 80 minutes. It's 80 minutes, and it will have you thinking differently about parenting, about relationships, about what needs to be done when and why, and it helps get 2 people on the same page really quickly if you and your partner have a hard time being on the same page and agreeing in this department. So all of that to say, so that's one of the reasons why kids don't listen. Kids don't listen because maybe their relational bank account isn't full. So we need to figure out ways to fill that up with compliments, with quality time, with, saving our corrections for when they really matter. So choosing our battles. All of that. We want positive interactions to far outweigh the negative. And if you're on holiday break, you might be like, oh my God, we're nowhere near that. That's okay. I start with a lot of people in relationships in that place. Know that you're there. We're going to help you get to a better place, little bits at a time. We're not going to swing this in a full other direction in a day, okay? Little bits at a time. We're just going to start to get some momentum in a better feeling direction. That's your only goal. Okay. So let's start out with some Q&A questions. Q&A questions today. I really need to figure out a way to make this bigger for my old eyes. Hang on. Oh, now it's half not on the screen. If kids don't do chores on time, do they still get their full pay and just lose privileges for the brief period while you ask them to do them? I feel like this will be a weekly occurrence I ask her to do. Yeah, in my house, no. To get paid for chores, they are done on time. Sometimes I negotiate a partial payment if, there's something got in the way, but they still have to be done. So there have been weeks where my kids have to do their big weekly deep clean chores and they don't get paid because they don't do them on time. Yeah, but that's totally up to you. Suggestions on how to handle a 5-year-old who digs in when cards are given. Examples: fighting is 5 cards in our house, but when we tell him he has cards for fighting, he then will start trying to get a reaction out of us by doing other things he knows are against the family rules. If we give him cards for every incident, he'll end up with so many cards by the time he calms down. We don't usually give him additional cards because he's clearly mad and working through that, but he will sometimes throw toys at us or his younger brother, hit us, etc. So, there are times to give extra cards and there are times to not give extra cards. I think when you're starting this system, all smart animals will test their boundaries. There will be a period of a lot of cards. What most of our participants say is that within a month or so, they're barely issuing cards. I think the more consistent that you are, the more clear everybody is about where the lines are, the less they will inevitably cross them. And then the less you will have to discipline. And then the more opportunity you have to have positive interactions. It's a system that feeds itself. Okay? Relationships that aren't great feed themselves, and relationships that there's momentum either way. So we're just trying to get momentum in a better feeling direction. So I would be issuing cards while the behavior that's not okay is happening. I would do it in as calmly as possible, like I'm ordering a salami sandwich at a deli. Okay? Like, oops, or like, I don't want mustard on that deli sandwich. Like, oops, that's yelling. That's, 2 more cards or whatever it is. I don't have the amount of cards associated with not okay behaviors memorized. I'm just referencing my sheet. I'm like, oh, that's yelling, that's cards. And I'll maybe document yelling and then go back and check the cards later. And then once that child is calm, we want to reward calm behavior. We want to reward emotional regulation. So, and I will be giving hints while somebody's dysregulated about how they cannot get more cards. Like, it seems like you're really mad and you're having a hard time not acting out in anger. So all feelings are okay. Anger is okay. Acting out on other people in anger is not. So all feelings are okay. All behaviors are not. It seems like you're angry and having a hard time not acting out on other people. One, I want to make sure my kids know what to do when they're angry. I want them to know what's okay and what's not okay. So my kids know they can go into their room and scream into their pillow. They can beat the hell out of soft things in their room that are not breakable. They can throw a tantrum, not in my vicinity in a way that because sometimes when kids are throwing a tantrum in front of you, it has an impact. It is to impact you negatively. So I will give them hints about how to not get cards. But then once there's emotional regulation, Now we negotiate. Now we talk. Now we're like, hey, what went well? What didn't go well? What needs to shift and change? Like you're really angry. Here's what wasn't okay. Here's how many cards that you've racked up, and that's like really sad. Like I don't want you getting this many cards. Um, so while we're in the learning phase over the next few days, we're going to reduce these cards by half, however you want to put it. Like if you're in the beginning of the system, I encourage, and I say this in the workshop, I encourage a learning phase where either the amount of cards is reduced or a parent will help the kid complete the cards. Um, so once emotional regulation happens, now you would be shocked. Like my kids, I have two big feeling kids, two out of three, two big feeling kids, and they will lose it. They will say horrific things about the system. Now I couldn't tell you the last time this happened. Okay. Um, they'll lose it. They'll say things that are awful. They'll send themselves to their room eventually and physiologically calm down. So I also like to explain to kids like what's happening in their brain and why in those moments it's not easy to not act out on people. So we have a free training called the How to Not Get Stuck training. If you comment conflict or DM us conflict in anywhere on any of our reels on this live, we'll send you a link to the free training for busy couples. No, free How to Not Get Stuck workshop. Sorry. And in that, there's a part where I talk about the affective neuroscience of like anger. Okay? And when our fight or flight response is triggered, we're going to be doing and saying in the things in the heat of the moment that we know that when we're calm don't behoove us relationally. So escalated kid, I'm not doing a whole lot of teaching in that moment. I'm not doing any. I'm just like saying as few words as possible, like whoops, that's cards, like psst, here's some hints on how not to get them. Like that's it. When somebody is physiologically calm, now we're talking. Now we're like, hey, what's happening? Now I'm like, hey, I don't want you to have this many cards. How about this time I help you? Like there might be some like back and forth there, if that makes sense. Sorry, I've lost my place. How do I help my ADHDer have a better relationship with her sister? She yells a lot over perceived slights. I missed this question before. Did this just like sneak in here? Anyway, I think that yes, ADHDers live exceptionally close to that fight or flight response. And because of their impulsiveness, there's a lack of filter. And it does impact relationships. I did a whole podcast on it about how weird ways in which ADHD impacts relationships. Comment podcast on anything or DM us podcast, and we'll send you the link to that. So this system, I think of ADHD brains because it's not information deficit disorder. It's actually a terrible name. It's not attention deficit disorder. They can actually have incredible amounts of attention when it comes to something that they're truly interested in. But it is a lack of structure and prioritization and filter in the brain. And so I think of ADHD brains as needing extra guardrails, right? And they're not on the inside, so we've got to have them on the outside. I think of it like bowling. Like they need bumpers. They need bumpers on the outside because their brain doesn't have bumpers on the inside between like what's okay and what's not okay. So that's where this system, the Family Rules, Chores, and Systems for Discipline, puts that structure on the outside in a way that isn't delivered with anger, frustration, or irritation because those ADHD brains are shame prone. So you think you don't want to yell at your kids? You really don't want to yell if you've got an ADHDer in your mix. So yeah, so having more structure on the outside. So in my pinned reels, I talk about an interaction between two of my girls where the oldest one says to the younger one, "Why are you wearing that?" And so relational stuff and communication stuff that I see that doesn't behoove people and that I'm trained to help people change in the ways that they communicate, those are in our family rules. That's in the templates. So use the templates, lean on the templates, and be like, that sounded like criticism. That's so many cards. So, so yes, this system has totally improved relationships in our household. Are they perfect? No. Do they still have sibling squabbles? Absolutely. Some of that's normal. Okay. Suggestions on how to handle a 5-year-old who digs in when cards are given. Oop, already did that one. What can we do if the cards induce shame in our kids or makes things worse? Can we switch to a positive rewards system? You can do whatever you want. And I would be thinking about the things that I said at the beginning of this workshop, focusing on positive interactions and relationships, noticing when things are good. So I'm inserting positivity as much as I can. Like when my kids were toddlers, I would be like, and they were irritating me and doing things that were not okay, I would find something positive to say. I like how you're breathing so quietly right now. And it was like, oh, I can get attention by doing good stuff. Oh, I'll start that momentum, right? Like sometimes we just have to shift the momentum and interrupt the pattern. So thinking about increasing positive words of affirmation, um, increasing quality time together, but then also when there is, again, when kids are emotionally regulated, talking to them about the mistakes. So if a kid is shame prone or highly sensitive and or has ADHD or something like that, they're going to have to live in a world where there are consequences to behavior that are not positive. And so I want to set my kids up for success in that. So afterwards, I'm having conversations with them like, it's not a big deal. You made a mistake. Now you just have to do the cards, make it better. That's it. This system totally reduced shame in our household. And I think a lot of it has to do with delivery of the cards. Some kids, I think they so don't like making mistakes and they so don't like not being perfect, that they still have a hard, no matter how you deliver it, will have a hard time with the cards. And there is a TED Talk called something like Being Brave, Not Perfect, that I will recommend for parents to watch with their kids. That perfection is not, actually, people who aim for perfection aren't as successful as people who are okay with failure sometimes and getting it wrong and trying at something they're not good at, until they get good at it. So some ideas there. This might be a repeat question. Yes, a 12-year-old having a hard time with the family rules and acting out aggressively. The 10 and 5-year-old are doing great with it. They don't want the 10 and 5-year-old to see the aggression, and don't want our youngest continuing to see this and learn from his reactions. How would you address this with our oldest? So aggression is a tough thing, and I think it's not talked about a lot. When kids become aggressive with parents. And in terms of what I know about affective neuroscience and what worked for our family, is that kid would get removed, from the system. So, or removing other kids. So it's not changing the expectations or the consequences, but it is protecting the other people in the system from dangerous behavior. And so fight or flight response is triggered. This all of what I'm about to say is talked about more in depth in our free training, how to not get stuck, the How to Not Get Stuck workshop. It's within the I talk about it more in terms of like couples and arguing, but it definitely applies to all ages and ranges and types of relationships. So in terms of that fight or flight response, once it's triggered, which it sounds like he leans towards fight and not flight, okay? That's okay. And this is something that I might talk to a 12-year-old about. For sure. For sure I would talk to a 12-year-old about this. When we get angry, we have this urge to fight or flee. He has a tendency towards fight, and he will do and say things when he's at that fight or flight response, that he knows when he's calm are not okay. So what he does when he's angry does not indicate that he's a good or a bad person. He's a good person having a hard time. Kids who tend towards aggression tend to later feel a whole lot of shame, which puts us into this like negative feedback loop that we're trying to get out of. So a conversation like the one I just said, the things that we want to do when we're angry or hurt does not indicate whether we're a good or bad person. You are 12. Your brain will have a hard time emotionally regulating. That's developmentally appropriate. Wanting to hurt people is one thing. Hurting people is another thing. So the next time you want to hurt people, that's okay. But what could you do instead that might be okay? And brainstorm ideas of things that he could do in those moments. And then it happens again, reassess, like the things that you come up with work or they don't work, but here's what's going to happen. Like if you can't physiologically calm yourself down, then we are going to remove you from the situation, because we can't have you hurting us or other people. And let him know what that looks like. For we without context and without a back and forth, this is a tough thing for me to talk about, but we have removed our kids from our household if they were having a hard time not being physically or emotionally abusive. Taking them outside. Is that embarrassing at times? Yeah, it is. I don't care. Kids will have a hard time. Taking them in the car, taking them somewhere, anywhere, taking the other kids elsewhere. So sometimes it's like a 2-person job. Removing them just like from within the house. Like you can be angry and you can want to act out on things, but you have to do that in your room. You can't do that out here. But I'm saying all that, and I'm also saying it's really tough. It's really tough to manage. Because what will happen is that you stick to the consequences, and that reaction and that behavior should decrease. But we've got to one, address the shame around it. So maybe educating about how this is what brains do and this is what your brain does. And that's okay. We've just got to work with the brain you have. And then, but also sticking to the consequences. That looks like pretty much a repeat of some of the questions that we've had. Okay, suggestions for an ADHD are speeding through cards to get them done or doing the bare minimum. So I check card work for the most part. You guys, I'm not consistent 100% of the time. I would say I'm consistent 80 to 85% of the time, and I think that that's enough. Okay? I think that that's enough. We've got to let go of this idea of perfection or always doing it right, and not being oh, I stink at being consistent 10 to 20% of the time, so I'm just not going to do it at all. This all or nothing thinking isn't helping anywhere. So check the card, check their work. Be like, oops, you missed some baseboards, try again, and let me know when you want me to check them again. They also say, I'm finding we need to keep adding rules. Adding rules for consistent issues we don't have cards for. Suggestions for keeping rules clear and not cumbersome. So I would double check the rules. So some of the rules that we have that are already in the family rules template. So in the family rules, chores, and systems for discipline workshop, you get templates. You get what we actually use in our family. And some of those rules are what I call umbrella rules. So criticism is not okay. There are a whole lot of things that are considered criticism. And so I would make sure to check the rules, make sure that these consistent issues aren't already covered in a bigger, more general rule, or they can't be more covered in a bigger, more general rule. And I add rules. I'm an adult. I can add rules whenever I want. I might just like update people very casually, a walk by. P.S. There's a new rule. Check it out if you want. It's number this. Or we might have a full-blown family meeting about it. This is what's been happening, and here's the new family rule. The end. So don't make it cumbersome. It doesn't need to be. Somebody says, how do you integrate chores and good habit cards with regular routines like hygiene, schoolwork, etc.? I don't know how to answer that question. It sounds like your question infers that maybe your kids aren't doing well. So there are rules about turning homework in on time, so that addresses the schoolwork. Maybe your kids aren't doing so great with like hygiene. Make a rule about that. Like teeth brushing and, showering needs to be done by this time so we can get to bed on time. Those could definitely be added in. When my kids were littler, though, we were involved in that stuff. And then we would back away and not be so involved, and inevitably, like late elementary school, when they're fully capable of brushing their teeth on their own, and you just like give a reminder. All three of my kids have said, yeah, there were times that I went long stretches of time without ever brushing my teeth. And I was like, that's really gross. But then they get feedback from somebody at school. Like, there's a natural consequence to that. I noticed some, like, gum swelling at some point in one of my kids. And I'm like, girl, you gotta brush those teeth. So I don't have a ton of rules about that stuff. I will give feedback about it, like, if I smell them. Let me see if I've missed any other questions live here. I think there was one. I'm struggling to figure out what chore sheet to work off of since I like the younger kid chart but have older kids. What do you suggest to incorporate them or to mingle them, I guess? I don't know. I guess I would need to know more about what you like about the younger kid sheet. And here's the thing. You don't need to pick the right one. You're not marrying this, okay? You could start with something and then change it. Like, that's okay. There's something, like, I had a client, I hadn't seen her in a couple years, and she saw the family rule stuff, and she bought it, and she made a long appointment. She's like, I've had this for 4 weeks, but I wanted to make an appointment to oops, you fell. To figure out, like, how to deliver this in the best way. And, like work through all potential sticky spots. You're gonna have sticky spots. Like, you're gonna shift and change things. Like, I just want people to so the Family Rules, Chores, and Systems for Discipline workshop gives people a huge running head start. Every family is different, though, and you're gonna need to tweak things, like, here and there. Like, I think it was brought to my attention in one of our past Q&As that, like, somebody asked, like, what do you do if kids are, like, using the cards against each other? And we call that, like, oh, that's me card. Like, nah. We call that card policing. It made me realize this question that I never actually put it in our family rules. And nobody has questioned me about it. Because I think I've just been like, whoops, that's card policing, that's a card. Like, now, I also teach them how to address broken rules in a way that's not that. Like, that felt like criticism. Can you say that in another way? And then if somebody, like, clings to the nastiness and the criticism, then it's like, Mom, I've tried to talk to this person about this criticism, and I just keep getting more of it back, and I don't know what to do. Now I'm involved. Now you've done everything you can do. Now I'm coming in. If I get nastiness, now they might get cards. Okay? So yeah, you're the parent. You reserve the right to change things. Start with one. If you need to print, if you change your mind, then you just go to the next one. Think about kids. They have a teacher in school for 4th grade, and then they have a whole other teacher in 5th grade who has different rules, who has different expectations, who runs the classroom a whole different. Like, kids are adaptable. You can change it. You can change it. Okay. Looks like I need to add somebody else had a question about not doing chores on time. Looks like I need to add that somewhere. That yeah, if they get, the part of being paid is them being done on time. If they're done, sometimes my kids will like have a lot going on or a lot to do, and I'll be like, well, do you want full pay or do you want me to help you? And they'll choose, we want you to help us. And I'm like, okay, how about I do this and this and this, and you get paid half, and they agree. Okay. Okay, I think I got them all. If you want to join the Family Rules, Chores, and Systems for Discipline workshop, comment, help, or help, the free communication training, How to Not Get Stuck, where I talk about affective neuroscience and what happens in the brain when we're angry. Comment conflict, and we'll send you that. Or if you DM us conflicts, it'll work too. Oh, another question. I understand the weekly chore zones for picking up shoes, hoodies, school bags, etc., not zone-based. Do you just cover that with a rule? Yeah, I think picking up after yourself is a rule. Like, hey, your shoes need to be put away. If I see them again, it's going to be a card. And then if you see him again, it's like, ruh-roh. I don't deliver it like a mean dictator. I'm like, ruh-roh. Your shoes are here, and you have a card. Yay. Because a lot of those cards work for me. They're either doing things that help me, or help our household, or they're doing things that help themselves. Which I don't know if you've noticed, kids aren't really great at that. Okay. They're really great about rotting in front of technology. That's what they're great at. Okay. How about missing assignments? Card for each day it's not done, or do they get phone back until this assignment is in? We have a rule that is associated with a number of cards, and then, yeah, until the assignment is turned in and the cards are done, they do not get their stuff back. They do not get their privileges back, whatever you decide privileges are. Thank you for the heart, whoever just pushed that. All right, happy Sunday. Let me know what you need. We'll do another one of these on Wednesday. Send in your questions to the Q&A form on the workshop homepage. We also email it to you. You should have received an email this morning about 10 o'clock Central Time, where the link is there for last minute questions. Let us know what you need. We are happy to help. And I'll talk to you soon.